SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Have you been seriously injured? Mama Justice is here for you. Our medical team partners with top-notch doctors, surgeons, therapists, and urologists, ensuring a comprehensive recovery journey. If you've been injured, call Mama Justice today. We're here for you.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Everyone, and welcome to MidDays SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Friday Eve.
I must say that now that Scary Gary has repaired my headset, it's a lot better. And we're not getting that feedback either, huh? So that was it. It was leaking sound into the mic. But it's improved the quality in my ear, so I appreciate Gary for taking care of.
Leaking is about appropriate because sound works oddly like a liquid.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you think of a lake and drop a pebble in it, the ripples.
Yeah,
that's what sound waves look like. You just can't see them.
Yeah. So if you could key up the breaking news, Chiron, it would be much appreciated.
Somebody keeps moving it on me here.
Uh-oh. All right, there you go. I never forget that. Here we go, folks. Bloomberg. $1 million apiece with $500 million. Oh, gosh. You'll never live that down. But they were just wanted to rush. Isn't that kind of where we are in our society and politics? Oh, gotcha. Got to rush to it before you have a clue what the heck you're talking about. And you certainly didn't apply the basic math principles. You would think, though, that common sense would say, maybe I need to think about that before I rush to get that out on national news, Brian Williams.
You want to know what's even sadder?
What's that?
For the vast majority of legislation or acts of Congress passed,
yeah,
unless you were the author and have been talking about it before it passes, you probably don't know a whole lot about what's in it either.
That's true, sad as it is.
And they're voting on it.
That's exactly right. So I asked you to play that because I guess this isn't news, but I couldn't think of anything else to sort of preface this, and that is, today is the anniversary date of Journey's Escape album being released. 1981. Now, some peg the date at July 20th, but most put it at July 17th. Okay? So, there you go, the Big Escape album. Now, and for those of you who aren't Journey nuts like I am, the tracks on this album, of course, the iconic Don't Stop Believin', 1981. Stone in Love, maybe my favorite guitar riff, certainly opening a song. And then I'm going to say this is my third favorite Journey song, Who's Crying Now? Great tune. Fantastic. And when they play it live, I'm telling you, Neil Sean plays that iconic guitar riff toward the end there just like it's recorded. And isn't that what people want? You know, we went through a phase where you'd get the recorded version of songs, and then you go see your favorite artist. They'd play your favorite songs, and it's like, no, that's not the way it's supposed to sound. But these guys do it right now, so...
Do you think a part of that, though, was because of what we've talked about previously, where if you just play the same thing the same way 1,000 times, it's like, I want to do something different?
I absolutely do. I think these are artists, and they're creators. And doing something over and over again, I think, gets a little bored for them. And so they got to spice it up, change it up a little bit.
That's why I think if there was anything they were going to regurgitate out of entertainment, it should be Unplugged.
Yeah. Okay.
Bring back Unplugged, where you have the artists come in an intimate setting with an acoustic guitar. If you got to have the drummer, he gets the bongos or a tambourine or something.
There you go.
But you just come in there and you do it acoustic for a small crowd, and the way certain songs, the meaning didn't change, but the feelings changed.
I think that would work. I'm for that. We need our former resident expert Perez to weigh in on that. Man, he always had some great analysis of all that stuff. The amount of information in his head about music, the creation of music, the performance of music, it's really unbelievable. I'm going to go out on a limb, although I don't think it's going out on a limb, and say more than anyone else in the state of Mississippi.
I think it could be argued, yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. I miss him in that respect. You know, numerous times he would have finished up the Gallo show and been down the hall there. And, of course, for those that don't know it, as you can imagine, here in the SuperTalk headquarters, we've got speakers lining the halls, and the live broadcast is always airing and projecting from the speakers. And he'd hear us talking about music, and he'd pop in here and get in a seat. And those were some of the most fun conversations I've had since I've been doing this. More fun conversations coming up today at 11:05. We've got Representative Robert L. Johnson III. He's a member of the Mississippi House of Representatives. He is the minority leader in the House, represents District 94 that incorporates Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson counties. He's the vice chair of the House State Affairs Committee. We'll get his thoughts about the big, beautiful bill and a recent press release, which we shared with you a couple of days ago from the Mississippi Democratic Party, really blasting the big, beautiful bill, and specifically Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, who is thought to be the Republican nominee for her current U.S. Senate seat. She's being challenged by Democrat Ty Pinkins, and so the Democratic Party in Mississippi is on the attack. We'll get his thoughts on that. And then at 12:05, this ought to be fun. My bandmates, Dan Eubanks, member of the Mississippi House from District 25, DeSoto County, and Joe Tubb, a member of the House, represents District 87, Forest and Lamar counties. We're going to talk about the House band and other stuff that's on their mind from a legislative and political perspective. The first gig, don't forget, July 31st, 1 o'clock, right after the show, over there at Founders Square under the SuperTalk tents. I'm going to head over to the stage at the track. We're going to play a little music for you. Ought to be fun. So the Senate, U.S. Senate, that is, Republicans, they got this rescission bill passed, a clawback package, includes cuts to foreign aid, NPR, PBS. Oh, my gosh, are the liberals melting down over that? How many people are going to die because they don't have NPR? I mean, they're literally saying that now in PBS. People are going to die. Every dang thing that happens, people are going to die. There's no in between. It's just they're going to die. Oh, my gosh, the big, beautiful bill, people are going to die.
Did you send me a video where somebody had tallied it up?
Yes, I did. It's just...
I got it right here. It's Senator Jeff Merkley.
There you go.
From Oregon.
Senator Jeff Merkley here. The estimated death total from Trump's policies is now estimated to be in the multiple millions.
There you go. The death toll from Trump's policies in the millions. And we're to take that fool seriously. That's what drives me crazy. It makes me laugh. That's why I laugh all the time. It's when people say crazy stuff like this, and they're so serious about it. They take themselves too seriously. That's part of the problem. And I'm going to say again, have you ever seen any of these people laugh? Negative.
Unless it's at the expense of a conservative.
And that's fairly rare because they have a hard time getting those muscles to work in their face. They just hate fun. They're just unhappy people. They're always unhappy. Everybody's dying all the time. And it's the Republicans' fault. That's pretty much their default political argument.
That's why they seem to attract craziness.
No doubt about it. Speaking of which, we got crazy man Mondani. He and AOC are out campaigning hand in hand, and Representative Jayapal. Oh, my gosh. But have no fear, because the city of Minneapolis, they got their own version of Mondani. He may be worse. This is what's so rich to me. Wow, this socialist, communist guy is out there campaigning to be the mayor of Minneapolis. In the meantime, you got the Minneapolis City Council, as we shared with you yesterday, trying to figure out how they can tax the rich more. There you go, a little Stone in Love from the Escape album. Still great music, man.
From the
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Let's go.
So hard to please, but look around, leaves are brown, and the sky is a haze.
Simon and Garfunkel. There you go. Hazy shade of winter.
One of those examples of a song that the original charted, but didn't chart nearly as high as the cover.
That's true. That's good.
Because the Bangles came along and did it, and it hit like number 2 on the charts. But
that's exactly
Simon
right.
and Garfunkel, I don't think they ever cracked the top 10 with it.
Well, they were a little easier on the eyes. Simon and Garfunkel. Susanna Hoffs, of course, the lead singer of. She still looks great today, honestly. She's very active on social media. So we got this $9 billion rescission package passed. 51-48. Had to bring in the vice president to get it across the finish line. Headed to the president's desk for enactment. Now, if it was that hard to get $9 billion stripped out of the budget, how are we ever going to make any significant progress?
By getting rid of McConnell, Murkowski, and Collins to start with.
As starters, because they all three voted nay. As you know, that's what necessitated the vice president. Of course, every Democrat voted nay. And this is a common sense legislation. And you know the question that comes up from the respective leaders, the head persons in the organizations, PBS and NPR, who are accused of bias. And they always say, well, give me some examples.
They're not accused of it. It's pretty much been proven.
Well, right. But
They have zero conservative guests. They have token, quote-unquote, conservatives that are just centrists, and the rest of it's just flaming liberals.
No doubt about it. But when asked that question, they contend that conservatives, when they asked that question of conservatives who were critical of what you just said, that their bias, which is just strung throughout all of their programming, they basically say, oh, no, you can't give any examples of that. And our old buddy Robert Rush a couple of days ago says, why is Trump so hell-bent on defunding PBS? It's part of a larger plan, one where he can control not just what we do, but what we think. Are you kidding me? There would be no liberals in this country, certainly no new ones, if it weren't for the older ones that are grabbing a hold of these people in college, in the education setting, and indoctrinating them. And someone on the C Spire text line the other day asked, what can we do about that? How can we change that? What we need are more conservatives to enter the teaching profession. The problem is most of them aspire for other forms of work. And that's not to say that they don't exist, because they absolutely do. They're just in the minority. They're in the minority.
Feels like all these ideas for how do you change the hearts and minds of the youth and how do you swing public opinion, it just comes back to pendulum theory. And the Democrats got so far out to the left that there was no momentum to keep pushing it left. And that's why in the latest Quinnipiac poll, they're at 19% approval rating.
It's terrible. You're right. So I came across a video. I don't watch Sesame Street, obviously, but Sesame Street, it airs on one of those networks, right? PBS or NPR? I want to say it does. I could be wrong about that. But nonetheless, this is a show that's clearly geared for toddlers. It depends on the show, but many of them are. And so I just caught a video, and in that video they talk about vaccines, COVID vaccines specifically. This was from the 2020 tumultuous period.
Yeah, they've been on HBO since 2016.
Okay.
They get reruns.
Maybe that's what it is. BLM,
HBO and Netflix have got it.
All right. BLM protests, transgender kids, Pride Month, and LGBTQ propaganda. Oh, but they're not grooming. No, they're not doing that. Can't we just let kids be kids? Why do we got to fill them up with all this kind of crazy radical stuff like that? And I'm not suggesting that we ought to just fill them up with our points of view either. Can't we just teach them like just the basics of life that you need to understand when you're a little kid? Just factual sort of stuff that hopefully we can agree on, and not politicize it, not have an agenda, and not lean into any particular demographic or controversial matter. I just can't do it. And it bothers me because it's unfair to everybody involved. And you shouldn't have to worry about a toddler watching Sesame Street. That should be a safe play. But you can't. But there are numerous examples on NPR and PBS of their left-leaning bias. I mean, I may have even sent you something. I can't remember. I know I saved it in my personal files. One of those organization heads was talking about how the First Amendment got in the way. I think we actually discussed that on the show when that was a news story. It's been a while. But one of those ladies who runs that organization is literally criticizing the First Amendment. Feels like it gets in the way of their agenda. Yet it's Robert Reich who says it's Donald Trump who wants to control what we say and what we think. It's gaslighting hypocrisy is really what it is.
It also doesn't make much sense if you take just 2 seconds to think about it. So we're removing taxpayer funding, what they like to call government funding, and that's supposed to somehow influence them to preach the gospel of Trump?
Right.
I don't get it.
Well, I would say
it's almost like they're just fear-mongering and hoping that their little clapping seals that support them don't think about it too much either, because they usually don't. It just goes in one ear and out their mouth. There's no filter. There's no thinking. It's just regurgitated talking points that they're given to from the talking heads that are lying to your faces because they can't believe in reality.
So, okay, why has it got to be government money? If this thing is so great, it should be no problem for them to raise private money among the wealthy elites that are now leaning hard into the Democrat Party and liberalism. Why don't they just get it from them? So that's what they don't get. It's not that I support their right to have networks and promote whatever the hell they want. I don't support the idea that I, as a taxpayer, should be financially aiding an organization that conflicts with all my values. That's the bottom line. I wouldn't expect people on the left to pay for a strong conservative leading public organization as well. That's all we're saying here. I don't want there to be a conservative network. I don't want there to be any networks. I don't even think that's a function of government. Just if you think that's great, just go privately fund it. You don't need any public money. And that's all we're saying here. But, man, everything gets so hyperbolized and so jacked up. Like Merkley a minute ago saying, yeah, millions are going to die because of Trump's policies. That's just horse hockey. How can you just stand in front of the camera and lie like that?
Because they've spent the last decade of their life agreeing to increasingly more and more insane ideologies.
Unbelievable.
They've lost all sense.
So the New York Post headline on their article about this reduction of spending. It's actually a rescission of previously committed spending. Senate GOP passes first DOGE cut package, slashing $9 billion from foreign aid, NPR, PBS. And so the Boston Globe, Senate passes $9 billion in spending cuts to public broadcasting foreign aid requested by Trump. But you read their article, and it's just all these bad things that are going to happen as a result of this. I'm just disappointed that it was this hard to get $9 billion through. So let's do the math on that. That's about 0.15% of spending. You're not serious here, guys, with $9 billion. That's 3 days of just interest cost. 3 days of just interest. Not total federal spending for 3 days, just interest on the debt. It took the vice president to break a tie to get that through, or to get to 51 to get that through. Unbelievable. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth studio. We are live in the Element Wealth studio. Once again, Representative Robert Johnson at 11:05. He's the House Minority Leader in the state of Mississippi. And then Representatives Dan Eubanks and Joe Tubb, they are the founders of the House Band. They'll be in the studio as well talking about that. We got practice later on today. So on the C Spire text line, I see we have someone else who was aggrieved here. First, this person said from the 662, I thought only reconciliation bills are subject to a simple majority, talking about the rescission package that passed with a simple majority. As it turns out, the rules allow the body to rescind previously passed legislation if it was passed with a simple majority. So the funding for these programs passed with a simple majority, thus it can be rescinded with a simple majority. That's how it works. Those are the rules. This is different than, and it's because this is just standard appropriations. It's different when you're dealing with major reforms to mandatory programs, unless you can get those within the parameters allowed under the reconciliation rules. Those two would have to be passed by a filibuster-proof majority. So that's the distinction there. SuperTalk has received $6.2 million in public funds from the state of Mississippi since 2009. Why should our tax dollars be funding conservative media? Wow, where'd you get that information from? I have no idea. Do you know? They don't share that with us around here. I mean, is that published somewhere? Easily accessible? I'm curious about that. So 16 years, essentially, is what we're saying here. I guess it could be 17 if you count one of those years. $6.2 million over that period of time. Well, the figure is irrelevant. So here's the difference. The tax money that's funding NPR and PBS is funding an organization that produces content. This is funding advertising and promotion and public messaging. They're getting value for that. They're not funding the content. Now, somebody may argue, well, you can't live without advertising. That's absolutely true. But there's a pretty clear distinction between funding a not-for-profit organization, which is what NPR and PBS are, which is just giving them money to go produce whatever content they want. These are organizations in the state of Mississippi who make the conscious decision to invest in the advertising and promotion they do on this network to spread whatever message and deliver whatever message they're attempting to promote. And they know that there are a lot of people that hear it. And it produces value for the taxpayers and the organization. It's their message. It's not tax money saying, here, NPR, PBS, do whatever you want to with it. Oh, all of your content leans in one direction that you're using our money to produce here. So that's the difference. They're buying airtime as opposed to giving you money to say whatever you want. Am I making sense here?
To me, yeah.
Okay.
And to most sane people.
Okay.
But remember, liberals, second-order thinking.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, so
terminal ignorance.
I got you. And all I can say is if you're unhappy about that, whoever this person is, contact your rep, senator. Say, I don't want them doing that anymore. And so that means they wouldn't spend any money promoting their message, whatever that may be.
They would actually have a point if the state legislature had the fund SuperTalk bill. And
That's
the
true.
legislature voted to spend tax dollars funding SuperTalk. The fact that SuperTalk is the largest radio network in the state, therefore has the biggest spread and allows for the best bang for your buck in your advertising, sorry.
Right.
That's free market.
So if there would be any sort of, I wouldn't even call it an investigation, but just exploring on the part of the legislature, it would be of the agencies that are spending the money appropriated to them to promote messaging. And by the way, it's not just here. They promote that message all over the place. This is just one of those outlets that they utilize.
But that's a favored talking point of loony leftists in this state.
I see. Well, I'm certainly not going to apologize for that, and I hope that the distinction I made is appropriate. But here's the other thing. If you're not happy with the fact that our members of Congress, House and Senate, voted to reduce or eliminate funding to NPR and PBS, well, then vote for somebody else. Good luck. It's just simple as that. I think people are tired of their tax money going to that purpose. They're literally funding an organization to go produce content that conflicts with their values. This is spending money for the organization, the agency, to promote a specific message. I know I feel like I'm beating the horse to death, and I am, because it's pretty easy for me to see the distinction. Unfortunately, some people love to use, as you know, that talking point and point it out. There's some people who think, oh, yeah, without the investment on the part of government in this network, the network wouldn't be viable. And that's completely horse hockey. That's not even remotely close to being true. All you got to do is tune in every day. How many of those ads do you hear that are from government versus private sector entities? It's not even close, honestly. So, up there, Belmont University. That's up in Tennessee. I think it's in Nashville, if I'm not mistaken, right? Suburban Nashville? You knew this was coming. So the Trump administration issued executive orders early on in the president's term, essentially banning all this DEI stuff on college campuses. If you receive any public funding whatsoever from the federal government, which virtually every university in this country does, there are a few that don't. There are rare exceptions. But the president said, you got to stop it with all the DEI stuff. And what we're talking about there is when you're hiring, promoting on that basis, you've got these sprawling DEI departments with these high-paid individuals. You are showing preferential treatment across your campuses and in content, decision-making, virtually everything that goes on the campus. Well, Belmont University is trying to skirt the Trump administration's order, renaming their DEI program to HUB. That's H-U-B in all caps, the acronym, Hope, Unity, and Belonging. Oh, my gosh. Once again, these are loons trying to be serious.
Well, it's one of two things. Either they're so simple and naive that they think, oh, they're just upset with what we called it.
That's exactly right.
Or they're so nefarious and conniving that they are convinced themselves that they could get away with this by just, they won't notice that we still have the same people working here in this completely new department.
So, get this, the assistant director of student success and flourishing. Why in the wide world of sports do we need such a position? Student success and flourishing. What the hell do they do? This would be Joseph, that's Joseph.
Well, I mean, it's academia's fault that there's so many people walking around with completely useless degrees, so they got to give them at least some landing spots.
Well, Mr. Lucky, it could be pronounced Lukey, I'm not sure, it's L-U-K-E-Y. He says that Belmont is, quote, trying to create an inclusive space as possible without attracting notice. He also says the school knows it has illegal immigrant students, which it is trying to hide from the federal government. Oh, so you're obstructing justice. Last time I checked, that's like a felony or something, isn't it? So the Trump administration, like we said that if you're getting federal money, you got to eliminate your DEI programs and stop this practice of discriminating based on race and sex. But Belmont believes they can circumvent the president's orders. They shouldn't get a dang dime of federal money. So this nut is caught on tape saying this. This director of student success and flourishing. Oh, my gosh. I tell you how you succeed and flourish. Make A's. That's what you do. Coming right back.
Dr. Michael.
Are we going to do this?
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Keep rolling. 3, 2, 1.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
It's been a mystery. Still they try to see why something good can hurt so bad. Caught on a one-way street, the taste of bittersweet. Love will survive somehow, somewhere.
Who's Crying Now from the Escape album, 1981. Man, it's hard to believe. Was enjoying that when I was about a week away from getting married. That's when it was released, 1981. That's so good. So I sent you, nothing to play here, but I sent you a tweet that features a video of Michigan. You see this? I sent it to you last night.
Oh yeah.
You think this is Kabul, Islamabad, or Baghdad? No, it's Michigan. Good grief. That's disturbing. Now, I know there are areas of Michigan that are very highly populated with Muslim folks. And, you know, if they assimilate into America and follow our laws and contribute to society and don't promote anti-American ideas, that's fine. That's part of who we are in this country. I do have concerns about that, though. Just kind of looks like it here, doesn't it? This doesn't look very pro-American. I don't see an American flag, just so you know, folks. This is a video of thousands in Michigan, all chanting all sorts of Muslim rhetoric and slogans and sayings and hoisting I don't even know what the heck all these flags are. But there are no American flags in the crowd that I see. This is worrisome, in my view. And I know this is just a patch in Michigan, but you're seeing what's happening in New York City. And then you got this nutcase that's running for mayor in it's Minneapolis.
Oh, yeah, the Somalian.
Yeah, Somalian, right.
That was born in D.C. to Somalian immigrant parents, but calls Somali home.
Oh, Lord. But also is very critical of white people. I mean, he's a card-carrying racist, let's be honest.
You'd be hard-pressed to find many Somalians that actually like Americans. They just like the freedoms we have.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly right. So I thought I had some video of that guy. I don't see it. But it's bothersome that, again, a major American city is subject to having a mayor with these views. And he literally, I can't tell where he is and what the setting is, but he is literally addressing someone in like some sort of public meeting, because he refers to somebody as president of whatever the body is that he's addressing. And he basically calls out white people in this public square here, in this public setting. And this guy is set possibly to be the mayor of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And then the socialist, really communist, Zoran Mamdani, more video surfacing. I sent that to you. Is that something we can tee up here? Here we go.
My platform is that every single person should have housing. And I think faced with these two options, the system has hundreds of thousands of people unhoused, right? For what? And if there was any system that could guarantee each person housing, whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now.
Statewide housing guarantee.
Well, that's not nearly as scary as the abolition of private property.
which he has advocated for, been very clear about
That's what he advocated for right before that.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that's definitely concerning, no doubt. And then we've got Senator Markey.
It's our house, comrade.
Exactly. And I know everybody says, hey, that doesn't matter. That's a long way away from here. It's New York and that sort of stuff. But, man, when you see a large number of American citizens in a major American city that are ecstatic about this guy, and it looks like he's going to end up being the mayor. By the way, Cuomo, who now says he's running as an independent, he has released a most cringe-worthy ad where he's out on the street assisting a New Yorker jumpstart their battery, which is dead, and they're stuck there. And it's his way of conveying the message that he's jump-starting his campaign. Is that not the most cringe-worthy thing you've ever seen?
No, but it's up there.
We're going to take a break right now. It's time for Fox News and SuperTalk News. When we come back, it's Representative Robert Johnson. Stay with us. Hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays from the Element Wealth Studio on this
Friday Eve.
We welcome now our guest is Robert Johnson. He is a member of the Mississippi House of Representatives. He's the minority leader, serves District 24, includes Adams. 94, pardon me, I said that wrong. Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson counties. Is the vice chair of the House State Affairs Committee. Representative Johnson, thanks for coming in, sir.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. So the Democratic Party issued a press release. We received it here at SuperTalk, of course, being a member of the press.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was entitled, Mississippi Dems and Leaders Around the State Issue Statements. New poll shows voters are putting Medicaid slashing Senator Hyde-Smith on notice. So you had a statement in there, as did the party leader, Sheck Taylor. Also, Derek Simmons, he's the Senate minority leader. You guys all had statements in there.
I haven't seen the press release. I've given a couple of town halls, so I'm sure it's a quote I'm sure it's right. I just don't know which one you're referring to.
All you really said here is I'll just read the quote from the Democratic Party's press release. Mississippians are waking up and understanding that we need to change elected officials who do not deliver for our state.
Yes.
And Cindy Hyde-Smith is number one on that list. She is not.
I absolutely did say that.
Okay. She has not delivered for this state or the country. She has voted to cut crucial funding that will benefit our state. We are going to send her packing and elect a leader who will put Mississippi first.
That's our hope, yes.
Okay. Who are you running?
We're working on some people.
Okay. To run for U.S. Senate?
Yeah, absolutely.
26.
Viable candidate, one that has extensive experience, has done great public service work, and so we're looking to put him out there.
Okay. So you have somebody in mind, it sounds like.
I do. No formal announcement has been made, but he is a prosecutor, a district attorney, and he has a vast amount of experience.
Okay. And so what would your hope be then, Representative Johnson, if you were to be fortunate to replace Senator Hyde-Smith and with a Democrat U.S. Senator? What would you like to see that senator work on?
I would like to see them work on things that are meaningful for the state of Mississippi, just like Congressman Thompson has been doing. I see a lot of legislators, elected officials who move around this state promoting all the good things they've done with all the money that the state has available, all the state surplus. And nobody mentions the fact that the only reason we have that surplus, not the only reason, but the major reason we have the surplus is because of the American Recovery Act and all the other pieces of legislation that were passed with Democratic leadership, and the only person that voted to deliver that kind of funding to the state of Mississippi has been Representative Benny Thompson. Every other federal elected official voted against all the funding that has been beneficial, that has been attributed to the surplus that we have done, that we have used extensively to do things here in the state of Mississippi. So we'd like to see, somebody else elected that will have the same kind of interest in promoting what works for the state of Mississippi. Senator Wicker has been, to a certain extent, helpful at least on one or two pieces of legislation, but Cindy Hyde-Smith has been absent on all of them.
Okay, so are you specifically talking about the American Rescue Plan, also known as ARPA?
Yeah, that's one, and there are several other pieces of legislation that I don't have right in front of me, but primarily ARPA, yeah.
Okay. Well,
and we're still spending ARPA funds.
Okay. Well, so have you considered the fact that before President Joe Biden was elected into office in the year 2020, that would be President Trump's final year, there were major funding measures that were under the guise of COVID relief funds.
Absolutely.
A bunch of money Republicans did vote for that.
They did vote for that, but I'm talking about what else would you do? COVID was an epidemic. There was nothing else left to do but provide funding for people who were and for citizens and for states who were suffering under the burden of what that epidemic did.
Okay.
But the ARPA funds were a purposeful, well thought out idea of what states needed for their infrastructure and to create economic development and create opportunity and jobs in their state. And they voted no. The COVID funds, everybody voted for COVID. Everybody wanted those funds to come. They had no other choice. That had to happen.
Okay.
But ARPA was a direct interest in terms of what do you need? You're a state that 29% of your roads are either impassable or either not up to spec. What do you need? We'll give you roads to fix those roads and bridges. In terms of your water systems and your drainage systems, how old are your pipes? Oh, they're all 120, 125 years old. What do you need to make that happen? What do you need to get rid of lead pipes in your water system to make things happen? That happened then because those are things that people need. And I constantly tell people all these Pollyanna ideas about tax cuts and what sounds good and what looks good. But at the end of the day, people want public infrastructure that works. They want their first responders, public safety, paid adequately and trained adequately. They want health care that's meaningful, that they want emergency rooms, if they can, in every county. And they want to make sure that public education is serving every student, that no matter how poor you are, no matter where you live, that you are entitled to an education that will give you an opportunity.
So as a result of the American Rescue Plan that you're referring to, passed in early 21, right after Joe Biden was elected, the deficit for that year at the federal level was roughly $2.8 trillion.
That he inherited from a misguided tax cut plan that the Trump administration instituted, which is consistent with every tax cut has been passed since Reagan. And this is not me talking; these are economists who tell you every tax cut plan has created a further gap in wealth, has benefited the top 5% disproportionately more than the working middle class. Every tax cut that has been passed since Reagan, the middle class has gotten a short-term tax cut and then it expires. Even under Trump, it did the same thing. But every one of them has increased the debt because it increases inflation, because it benefits a small part of the population disproportionately to the rest of the population. So people who work every day end up getting a short-term tax cut. But at the end of the day, it increases inflation because they end up spending more money because everything goes up because you're spending all your money at the top 5% of the population.
So how would you explain the just pure fact, this is from IRS data, that revenues actually increased by about a third after the Trump tax cuts, but spending went up about 53%?
I don't know where you get your figures from, but I've been
the United States Treasury.
What my figures come from the economists, and part of it from the Office of Management and Budget, that says that our debt increased incrementally. I mean, it increased after that tax cut, and it increases after every one. As it's projected to increase, our debt increased under this big ugly bill that just got passed. I mean, it is a recurring cycle. Every time these tax cuts are paid, every time debt goes up, and everybody, they always talk about increasing the economy, trickle down, or whatever you want to call it. It never happens. It never happens. All we get is debt and inflation. That's all we ever get.
So real wages increased under President Trump's first term by about $6,300, under Joe Biden by about $1,000, and that all came at the end of the term. Real wages are up, and real wages, as you know, are a calculation of nominal wages minus inflation. So that would be after inflation. You don't really, even though your wages may go up on a nominal basis, if inflation is also rising, you don't really realize any benefit from that. So real wages increase. What would you like to see? What would you like to see?
What I would like to see, real wages may increase, but inflation increases, so it's a negative effect.
That's what real wages are, sir. Real wages are a calculation adjusted for inflation.
But if everything that you want to buy costs more money, then it ends up nullifying whatever gain.
But that's not what real wages are. That's after inflation.
I don't know what you mean real wages, but I know that people in the middle class.
It's a common term in economics.
Well, fine. All I know is that the facts bear out that people in the middle class, even on a short-term tax benefit, and for instance, in the state of Mississippi, we passed a tax cut that's going to cost us $2.2 billion, and it's about to go into effect immediately. The last tax cut was half a $1 billion, and no services are going to be increased. Everything is going to be cut. So at the end of the day, you get a $750. The median income in Mississippi is $42,000 a year. You're going to realize maybe a $750 tax cut, but the top 5% in this country, in this state, are going to realize a $42,000 tax cut, but the people in the middle are going to be paying for it every day.
How do they pay for it?
They pay for it because they're going to have to pay more for goods and services than they ever did. And then at $750, think about, you're not going to have funding for roads, you're not going to have funding for health care, you're not going to have any of that because the money is gone.
We got a break.
The money is gone.
We got a break.
That's what Republicans do for you. They just take. Okay. They don't give. They just take.
We got a break.
They just take.
We're going to continue the discussion with Representative Robert Johnson on the other side. He's the House Minority Leader in the state of Mississippi. Coming right back.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
What? This is so
awesome. On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I feel free. I feel free. I feel free.
Welcome back, everyone. We are in the Element Well studio visiting with Representative Robert Johnson. He is the House Minority Leader, serves District 94. That includes Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson counties. All right, so before we went to break, you were showing or demonstrating that you're not very happy with tax cuts, both at the federal and state level, and you were sharing your concerns about that.
Well, my concern. Look, the concept of tax cuts. I mean, I worked on a tax cut bill with Philip Gunn, the first part of the 22 session, that created a balance. I mean, the bottom line in any tax cut you do, you have to have something. It has to be a balance. And we have passed tax cuts in this country, and we passed one in this state, that you're cutting $2.2 billion out of the budget, but you're not filling that gap anywhere. And so efficiency seems to suggest when you're trying to be more efficient and more cost conscious that you're actually examining everything and taking everything into account. And I don't see that. I didn't see that happen in the big beautiful bill, and I didn't see that happen in the tax cut that we passed in the state legislature. There's a way to pass a tax cut, but as I keep hearing from supervisors and city leaders, they are beginning to understand as they look closer at what's about to happen that the things that they have to provide on a local level that the state was a part of, that they realize now they're going to be on their own.
That's interesting because the vast majority of the revenue that is raised at the local level, county and municipal level, of course, comes from other sources. Property taxes at the county level, and to some extent the city level and the school district level, and then of course their share of sales taxes as well.
Well, I'm just telling you what they're telling me, and because what has happened in the last 20 to 25 years is the state has recognized the deficiencies in some communities and some counties in terms of infrastructure, water systems, health care, and the state has been a big part of integrating state resources into making sure those people have those services. That won't be there anymore.
Okay.
And so now the counties will go back to 50 years ago. Well, whatever they got is what they have.
Well, is it possible, though, we could reduce some spending in other areas maybe that are a lower priority than taking care of some of these municipal infrastructure needs?
Somebody has to tell me, because everybody talks about that like we live in some rich, over-wealthy state. Mississippi is grossly deficient in terms of what we spend on things that are really important to people, whether it be roads and bridges. I mean, we are literally just in anywhere from 45th to 50th in healthcare, infrastructure, and public education. And so I don't know when people say, well, where can we cut? What can we streamline? I don't know where that is. We have a little over a $7 billion budget. I can tell you this about the state of Mississippi, and it's a testament to, I'll give credit to whoever the leadership has been for the last 10 or 15 years. Okay. We don't waste money. We don't waste money in the state, unless it's Department of Human Services, of course, and we pay people a bunch of money to, on volleyball courts and things that are unnecessary. Okay. That's an anomaly.
Gotcha.
For the most part, we don't waste money. We run a shoestring budget. We make sure that money is spent the way it's supposed to be spent. And so when you cut $2.2 billion out of a shoestring budget, you're not going to have something is going to go lacking. And then consider where we are with our public employment retirement system. We've cut over 2,000 employees in the last 5 or 6 years, people who pay into the system. And people think, oh, well, we're reducing we're reducing our costs. No, you're not. You're contracting with other people to do the work that these state employees are doing. So those same state employees end up going and work for somebody else, so they're not paying into the retirement system, and they don't have the benefit of the health insurance that the state is paying. So we spend the money. We didn't stop spending the money. We just stopped paying state employees. We started giving the contracts to a private developer, a private entity.
So a couple of things. We have 140 some odd school districts in the state.
Yeah.
Are there opportunities that you could support of consolidation of some of those school districts to cut some of the back office costs?
I grew up in a consolidated school district. One thing I do agree with, whether Republican or Democrats, we have too many school districts.
Okay.
I'm even open to some counties joining together and joining their school districts. Okay. I mean, if you're a county that has 3,000 people and your neighboring county has 2,500 people, and then one of those counties actually has 2 school districts, you have two too many.
Okay.
That you ought to be those combined resources. When even in one of those counties, school buses are driving 20 miles to pick up a kid, you might as well combine those resources, combine that administration, and make it happen.
Do you know the speaker actually floated the idea of addressing that in the past session? It just didn't get any traction. Is that something you'd work with him on?
I definitely would work with him on it, but it has to be something you work with people on. I mean, what I've seen happen in the legislature is, somebody will willy-nilly pick out there are too many school districts in this area. Yeah, maybe. Well, why don't we figure out an overall system of what works? How many students make up a good school district? How many is too many? How many are too little? I'm definitely open to that.
Well, I agree. I think it's got to be done methodically and thoughtfully.
Absolutely.
But perhaps a task force makes sense to dig into that situation and make some recommendations.
Yeah. I think that would be a great idea.
A bipartisan task force, now that you're saying you're supporting it.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
I'm open to that.
Well, that could save some money, is the point I make.
That absolutely could save. And You just gave an example. When people talk about how to run everything more efficiently, you just gave an example of one area we could look at. If we really want to save money, we could look at something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so that's certainly one area.
But we hadn't done that. But,
all right. Yeah. Well, the state auditor, for example, has produced reports where he found lots of what appeared to be unnecessary, wasteful spending. But no action's been taken on that, and I haven't dug into that to see how much of that's relevant.
I haven't either. But if he spent $1.2 million or somewhere thereabouts to have a study to determine
two, I think
it's $2 million.
Yeah.
I just trust that somebody did some work.
Okay.
And look, one thing, and look, I have to be careful because I'm not a fan of the state auditor, but I have not been hesitant to give him credit that he has actually taken the time to look at where we could be more efficient. And nobody else has done that.
Yeah. It just doesn't seem to get any traction in the legislature, and I'm not sure how much of that is valid and legitimate, and how much of it needs some nuance and context and perhaps explanation.
I'm not a Republican, and I'm not part of the Republican leadership. But if another Republican, if we were all Democrats, and the Democrats said, "Look, I've done this. You ought to look at it," I'd look at it. I don't know why the governor, lieutenant governor, or the speaker hadn't taken the time to sit down and vet that with one of our committees.
So you're clearly opposed to the bill that will phase out the income tax in Mississippi, and that's over a 14-year period from today.
I'm opposed to in concept to two things. The way it was put together, I don't think there was enough.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I just what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
That bill, we came up with a super tax cut bill in less than a year. I don't think you do something that monumental, that's all encompassing without spending some time and then getting legislators' input and spending some time with it. And I can tell you, to a man, Republican and Democrat, even though a whole lot of them voted for it, you can't find. I could hardly find anybody that knew what was in the bill.
Okay.
And look, I'm a big proponent. I'm a child
you're talking about in the legislature?
In the legislature.
Didn't know what was in the bill.
Didn't know, couldn't tell you where anything was, what it did.
Okay.
They said, well, give me a summary sheet. Let me look at it. Look, I'm a lawyer. Part of what I'm trained to do is read. I can't walk into a courtroom without reading.
Okay.
I'm a child of a school teacher. My mother still says that the basic thing, if you teach kids how to add, subtract, read and write, they can learn, figure out anything. Computer, AI, and nobody reads. We can't get people to read.
Are your concerns that this is going to cause a budgetary problem down the road for the state? Is that the concern?
I'm not a betting man, but if I was a betting man, I would put money on it's definitely going to cause some.
Well, then, do you support Representative Johnson raising taxes to have more money at the state level for more programs? Just wanted to keep it the same.
I don't support either concept. I support thoughtful consideration of what works.
Okay.
What do we need, and is it worth spending money on it? Look, we're cutting. Let me go back to a perfect example: the big beautiful bill. So we went through this whole thing. Well, I don't care whether you're Democrat or Republican, where we were doing energy efficiency and we were doing, clean energy. Whether you agree with it or not, we did it. To the extent that we spent close to $300 million paying for a battery plant in Northeast Mississippi. Now we passed a bill without. And look, when Marjorie Taylor Greene tells me I don't know what's in the bill, I believe her. When she tells me she voted for a bill that she didn't know what was in it. So we got a $300 million investment in Northeast Mississippi that may actually tank. It may not even happen.
Have they said that to you?
No, I've just, every article I read says all of these energy manufacturers, these battery plants, these things we invested money in, that money may be gone.
Well, that was because of the subsidies that the Biden administration placed on those investments, made available for those investments. There's more government subsidies. It's corporate welfare. So you're supporting corporate welfare?
No, I'm not supporting corporate welfare. I didn't support. No,
I believe those plants are going to be fine.
Okay, well, I'm worried about them.
Okay, that's fair
I'm worried
enough.
about them because we spent $300 million.
If you could keep talking, we can continue. You good? Can you stay? You got to go.
No, I can stay.
Okay, we got Representative Robert Johnson.
I'm usually not asked to stay, but stay.
No, you're welcome. We're coming right back.
from the SeabrookPaint.com.
Attention, adoring fans! It's time for
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I got my mind set on you. I got my mind set on you.
We are back in the Element Well studio visiting with Representative Robert Johnson. He's the House Minority Leader. Just following up, Representative Johnson, I understand your concerns about the investments the state is making or the incentive package the state provided to the EV factory in Marshall County. And that is a joint venture of 4 companies, one of which, actually 2 of which, make the vehicles, the commercial trucks that are going to consume the batteries this plant will make.
Yeah.
This incentive package was a little different than some of the mistakes made in the past. I think you'd have to agree in that it does have clawback features. They've got to achieve certain employment and investment levels in order to receive those incentives. And a good bit of that's just for local infrastructure, just improving. You said that you think we need to do that. This improves the roads and bridges and so forth that service the factory. And some of that is inside the fence aid as well, support, financial support. But they got to hire the number of people at the wages they committed to and spend the amount of money. All of that's part of the agreement. So the state is somewhat protected in that regard.
I'm for it. I'm for it. I just expressed my concern with what they did in the president's most recent bill, and you and I talked off camera.
Yeah.
There's some. You alleviated some of my concerns. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about. But I do say everywhere I go, if you gave Issaquah County $286 million, they could build a new city and create economic development that would be meaningful in it. $286 million in a small community, and that's a small community in Northeast Mississippi, makes an entirely just an incredible difference.
Okay.
Period.
Well, this is a major investment this company's making in kind of a rural area of Mississippi that's going to expected to create a couple thousand jobs at an average wage of $66K. And if they don't get the incentives.
I want to see more rural communities receive the same kind of benefit. Because there's a mindset with some people in this state that feel like communities are dying and then maybe they just need to die. I said no. I mean, economic development is purposeful where you want to invest, and another cliche is that we're only as strong as our weakest link. We need to. There are places in the state of Mississippi that just land is cheap. The workforce training has been done. We ought to make some effort to move away just from Madison, Rankin, and DeSoto counties and start doing some economic development in other places.
Well, the Speaker and Representative Trey Lamar, House Ways and Means Committee, their contention is that this bill that you oppose, which phases out the income tax, will in fact stimulate economic development and investment in our state.
Well, they say that, but they haven't shown me how that's supposed to happen. Nobody's been able to explain to me on the floor of the House in Ways and Means meetings. Okay. I said, now tell me how that translates. Okay. Nobody's been able to tell me that.
I would say that people and companies tend to gravitate to areas where they can make a living and send less to the government and be less oppressed with regulations and an overbearing government.
Where does that happen? Where does that happen? I mean, they did the same tax cut in Kansas. And the Republicans had to come back after 10 years and say, it doesn't work. Arizona, almost bankrupt the state. Everywhere they've done this, and places where they don't have income tax, like Florida and Tennessee, they have high property taxes. There's something somewhere that you pay for.
Yeah, so I actually agree with you in that respect, that the government's going to get their money somehow, some way.
Right.
But I do think that spreading this out over a long period of time gives time for these policies to stimulate the economy, to serve as a catalyst for economic growth. But you still got to have that.
We didn't do that. We didn't do it over a long period of time. We were prepared
14 years.
To do that. Well,
that's not a long period of time?
That was before we moved the decimal point. Remember
still 14 years.
Yeah, but it's going to move a lot quicker than
14 years.
It's going to take.
The most you can. So once you get to the 3% mark in 2030, the most you can reduce the rate at that point in any year is 0.3%. I agree. The trigger is going to be easily achievable, and we're going to hit the maximum 0.3%. So the thing about it is, Representative Johnson, is that you got people who are mad that it's going to take 14 years.
Well, I'm just telling you. Look, we can argue about it. We can speculate what it's going to do, but history has told me, and my research has told me that what they suggest is going to happen never happens.
Okay.
It has never happened. In no state that has passed the same kind of tax cut has it ever happened the way they say it's going to happen.
Okay.
It just doesn't happen.
All right.
Nobody can give me an example where it has happened, where it has worked.
Let's turn our attention to the big, beautiful bill, which no Democrat voted for, as you know, and I suspect that Democrats in the state of Mississippi are not happy about this legislation either.
Well, I only know what I've read about it. I'm like Marjorie Taylor Greene and some other Republicans. I hadn't read the bill.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't even know exactly. I just know what people tell me.
Your party leader, Representative Chuck Taylor, says that Medicaid will be cut for over 200,000 Mississippians.
Well,
where did he get that figure from?
I don't know where he got his figure from, but every expert nationally and otherwise has said that, people are going to lose benefit. A lot of people are going to get kicked off of Medicaid
because they're not working. Do you oppose work requirements? No,
it's not because they're not working.
Well,
now let me get this fiction. Let me get this fiction straight.
All right.
Medicaid, the law requires you could have to be disabled, elderly, or a child.
Right.
Otherwise, you got to have a job. That's the law. Nope.
That's not true.
That's the law right now.
That's absolutely not true.
Now, who is getting Medicaid benefits who doesn't work?
That's not true.
Tell me who gets who doesn't work.
So first, it only applies to the able-bodied adult coverage group. We don't have that in Mississippi. We only have basic traditional.
What able-bodied person gets Medicaid who doesn't work?
Those that are in school or involved in community service or seeking work or
no community,
all of that qualifies.
Nobody in community services get free Medicaid. Now, people who are in school, people who are students,
there are no requirement now.
People who are students, which I think they should get Medicaid coverage. I want them to be healthy and finish school.
There's no federal requirement that someone is working to receive Medicaid benefits. That's why it's included in the law. The Democrats are all mad about it.
Nobody is mad about people.
Okay, so then nobody should lose.
No
coverage.
Let me say this.
Okay.
What's wrong with if a person works, they bring in a check? This is my paycheck. I work.
Why
do they have to fill out an 8-page application? Or why do they have to have...
I'll tell you why. Because there's a lot of dishonest people, unfortunately, that scam the system.
Right,
and it necessitates getting a lot of it. It's why do I have to lock my doors?
That's why Georgia, in instituting this work requirement, spent over $5 million.
I have been very critical of that myself.
Well, but it's also happened in Arkansas too. You end up kicking people off who are without question eligible because they didn't go through this rigorous, unnecessary application process. Look,
what do you think?
Let me stop you for a second.
Okay.
What is it about Medicaid? Is medicine? It's health care. No, it's not. You're not giving anybody a check. No, look, I'm a 66-year-old, relatively healthy man. I avoid the doctor every chance I get. So nobody out there is begging to go to the doctor. I
agree with you on that.
I'm like I still call them Ingalls, but Ingalls. I remember this so distinctly. 20 years ago, the CEO spoke to us and he said, we provide insurance coverage to all our employees, but we also have a clinic on site.
That's right.
I said, why would you do both? He said, the cost of providing health care and keeping people healthy makes us a more productive plant. I feel the same way about our citizenry. That if you provide health care to people, make them more productive. If a man is walking around with high blood pressure and he after about 4 hours he has to sit for 2 hours before he can finish working on a plumbing contract, when all he has to do is be able to get medicine, that is a benefit to this economy. Keeping people healthy is a benefit. Nobody's out there. Nobody's running around trying to figure out how do I get that Medicaid. Nobody's doing that except they want to stay healthy. Period.
Well, I agree with you that it's misunderstood that Medicaid or payments, the funding of Medicaid and the flow of funds through Medicaid go to the providers.
That's where it goes.
It's not cash money that goes to the recipients. But the taxpayers, I think, Representative Johnson, have a right to make sure that okay, these people who are eligible for Medicaid are truly eligible because there's
what about if they're truly sick and I want to make sure they stay healthy? What's wrong with that? What's wrong? Look, we have the highest poverty rate in the country, but that poverty rate is primarily promoted not by people sitting at home, by working poor people who don't have a living wage, people who don't have health care coverage, people who go to work every day, whether they're sick or not. But they could be a whole lot more productive. They could be much more of a contributor to our economy and to our overall welfare in this state if we made sure they were healthy when they went to work.
This bill doesn't deny any of that.
It doesn't. It guts
asking
Medicaid.
A person to prove that they're eligible twice a year?
That's not the part of the bill. That's not the part of the bill.
Well, what
that's
are you
the
talking
problem.
about?
I'm talking about over $550 million cut out of, for what? I mean, this is just out for what?
That assumes that people don't fill the paperwork out.
Why would you assume that? Why wouldn't you make sure?
Because that's all they got to do.
This work requirement is have a work requirement.
Okay.
Nobody has a problem with a work requirement.
Okay.
But make it a work requirement that actually just all it measures is whether or not you work. People, there's somebody you suggesting to me there's somebody who doesn't work who's coming into the Medicaid office so they can get what? Opioids or high blood pressure meds? I mean, what are they coming in? What is the incentive?
Then there should be no argument.
What is the incentive?
You shouldn't have any problem with it.
You all shouldn't have an argument. Nobody is trying to get medicine. Nobody is trying to cheat somebody to get medicine. Do you know anybody who is saying, do you know how I can go get that high blood pressure med? Nobody's doing that. Come on.
We got to go. We appreciate you coming in, Representative Robert
Thank you
Johnson.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Poly up a
Come on.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
All right, we are back
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
So don't stop me now. Don't stop me, 'cause I'm having a good time. Shooting star leaping through the sky.
Welcome back, everyone. That would be Freddie Mercury and Queen. Whew, may I take a breath there for a second? I really do appreciate Representative Johnson coming in. You can see that he and I have conflicting views on many of the issues, but, man, that's fine. And I'm serious. I do appreciate him staying with us, and he genuinely was shocked that I asked him to stay. But I could go on, seriously, and we might get a lot out there on the table that could be useful for our legislators. Certainly one thing I learned today is that he's not opposed to exploring the idea of consolidation of school districts. That's what he said. So I can assure you that I will be passing on that information to people on the right side of the aisle in the House and in the Senate. This may be something there's some congruence on between the parties. And this is a way, I think, to achieve some efficiencies in the state. Now, I'm not for just willy-nilly, hey, one per county. I'm not for that. I think it's got to be done thoughtfully, methodically. But the idea that there are no opportunities where that makes sense is just ignoring reality. So I think it's time to address that. By the way, the 2,000 employees that he said the state government had shed, it's not totally accurate. You know how I know you're shocked at this, but how they take a little liberty with that kind of messaging. A lot of that has to do with not replacing attrition. You know what I'm saying here. It's not just, hey, you're fired. That's not happening. It's, I'm retiring, and then the public sector entity says, maybe we can not replace that person, right? Or we've got job listings out.
I was about to say there's another sizable portion of it that is just job listings that we're taking off the listing.
Exactly. Now, I personally believe we should implement a policy whereby before we replace an attrited position or we advertise for a new position at all levels of government, we should explore whether or not artificial intelligence could perform that function. This is happening in the private sector big time right now. Big time. And, you know, it wasn't too long ago, all the rage was, go out and learn how to code. And now it's, no, go out and learn how to fix pipes and install electrical wiring and things like that we hadn't figured out a way for AI to do at this point, because AI is replacing coders who don't think. And I don't know if I'm saying this right, but I've worked in this world. There are people who architect it, and then there are people who just turn it into code. And the latter is just really more of a matter of mastering the cryptic nature of the coding process. It doesn't.
That's why they call it a programming language, because it's learning a new language, new vocabulary, new syntax, new punctuation.
Right. But the people who architect it still requires people that use tools to do the design. And what you can do now is say, okay, take that design, Mr. AI coding tool, and turn that into code.
Yeah, I think they call it vibe coding.
Yes. And there's tons of tools that are doing this. So I've got
a friend that made an app, made a game, vibe coding. Doesn't know a lick of programming language, but was able to use AI to code an entire video game.
There was a report this morning in one of the CIO, which is a great publication for the IT industry, talking about how Bank of America is using these coding tools. Now, an organization like that, I don't know this for sure, there are thousands of coders that work in their IT department. I don't think people realize how big the scale is of something like that when you're running a massive bank like that, which, let's be honest, all banks are just big computers at the end of the day. But nonetheless, Representative Johnson was good to stay with us. We got tons of text on the text line, and I don't think I can get to all of them today, guys, but I do appreciate your engagement. And honestly, I was hesitant to look at the text line screen while I was having that conversation because I didn't want to miss a point that he made. And I've got to be pretty good at the multitasking, reading the text line and dealing with the guest. But in this case, it was, I don't want to say confrontational. Let's just say that we conflicted on our interpretation of the issues. Representative Johnson did say, I'm going to go learn about real wages now. He said, I appreciate you coming in. This was offline. He said, you know a lot about this stuff, and I appreciate that. Appreciate you having me. But he's going to go look up what real wages are. And so this is not, you know this, right? That's not an obscure concept. But it's another thing where, again, the nuance is important. Because just because your pay goes up, the value of your pay, but the value of stuff that you buy goes up more than your pay, that's negative real wages. That was Joe Biden's first 3 years in office because inflation was going up faster than pay. Thus, negative real wages. We're stepping aside for Fox News and SuperTalk News. Representatives Dan Eubanks and Joe Tubb are next.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. Hello? You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is hour 3 of MidDays. We're coming at you live from the Element Wealth studio on this
Friday Eve.
Heck yeah, it's an all-Mississippi House of Representatives day because we got now in the Element Wealth studio Representatives Dan Eubanks. He's from District 25 DeSoto County, and Representative Joe Tubb from District 87 Forest and Lamar counties. Is that right?
Yeah.
You got it.
It's Joe's my daddy.
That's right.
Or Bubba, if you're really close.
Bubba is what I almost said, honestly. So
it's all.
But it's good to have you guys in. So we just put on our official house band T-shirts here. Yes. We got them on. If you're watching us on video, we're going to take a photo of what we're doing. We'll get Rhino in here and get in front of the SuperTalk sign. So I first want to tell you guys just how honored and grateful I am to be invited to participate in the band. It's been a blast. We've had 3 practices. We got another one scheduled later on today. Mm-hmm. It's a big day for us. I think we're going to do a little photo shoot up there at the Capitol, as I recall. That's what's scheduled for today.
New shirts on.
Yeah, got our new shirts on. So I'm grateful. It's fun playing with you guys.
We're tickled to death to have you.
It's fun, man.
You swim in the waters enough with other representatives. It was only fair that we made you an honorary House member. So we're glad to have you holding us together back there on the drums.
All right. So Representative Tubb, whose idea was this?
Kind of
this all came to fruition. Representative Scott Bounds, which is this year he's the chairman of the fair.
Yep.
We were at an event one night, and he said, Joseph, would you help me do something? And I said, well, if I can. And he said, I'd love for you to put a house band together and come play next year at the Neshoba County Fair.
Yeah.
And I'd never thought about that, so I said, well, let me think on that. And so I did, and we got back and together and said we'd do it. And so I talked to Dan, I talked to Steve Lott and Chuck Blackwell and the other House members there, Noah Sanford.
Yeah.
And
Lance Varner.
Lance Varner. Yeah. And said that, yes, we'll do it. So it's all come together really nice. It's going to be a good show.
All right, so how did Representative Scott Bounds, did he know that about your musical talent?
He has. I always play at the trailer thing that we have there at the fairgrounds every session, and so he'd seen me sing.
Okay.
So knew I had a couple of bands in Hattiesburg, and so yeah.
What about you, Representative Eubanks?
Well, I haven't been a stranger to doing the same kind of thing as Joe. But, since I've been in the legislature, I have been trying to get a group together to go and play at the Trailer Trash Bash, or I lead the Capitol Prayer Group when we're in session, and I wanted to get a group of musicians together just to do like a worship morning, there at the Capitol.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And it's like kept hitting a roadblock, and it was like the stars aligned, and Joe talking to Scott, and I'd already been talking to some folks, and we just kind of like made it happen.
Okay. So did you know Noah Sanford and Chuck Blackwell, Steve Lott? Did you know all these guys, what their musical talents were as well? Did you know that?
Yes,
okay.
I knew that.
It was a group effort.
Okay. All right. So I've been told that it was Representative Lee Yancey that informed somebody that
I was asking everybody in the House if anybody played drums, and nobody. I kept coming up short. Nick Hall, who used to work for Philip Gunn, Philip Gunn.
Yeah.
He was gonna drum.
Okay.
And then he took a job in D.C.
He's in Washington.
And I was like, oh, what do we do? We cannot play without a drummer. And Lee Yancey, he heard me asking somebody in the chamber. He goes, well, Gerard plays drums. I was like, really? I'm going to give him a call.
There you go. And when you call, so I saw your call coming in, and I'm thinking, well, it's a little unusual because we're out of session, thinking that maybe there was something political or policy related we needed to talk about, and then you posed that question. That's not at all what I was expecting. And, of course, I had to go out and buy a drum kit, as you guys know, which set me back a little bit. But it's been fun. So you guys came up with a set list. Whose ideas were those?
That was kind of a group effort, too, wasn't it?
A group effort. Dan's going to sing some songs. I'm going to sing some songs. We're going to do some songs together. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
We told everybody that once we kind of solidified who the core group was going to be, we're like, all right, give us some of your favorite songs, the ones that got to get played.
Yeah.
And so everybody was kind of contributing songs that they wanted. Now, apologies to the latecomers. We kind of already had a dozen or more before, because I know we could have played 100 songs, but then it's like, we got to narrow it down, boys. And but we some ones that Joe's been singing for years, and a couple I've sung, and Chuck had some. He's like, oh, we got to have this one in there. Some of the old country came from Chuck, and so it's really eclectic mix. It's going to be, I think, either A. I figure there's two outcomes here. Either A, we bomb it and you lose half your listeners and we don't get reelected, or B, we get a multi-million-dollar record deal from Capitol Records. No, I'm just kidding. But
it's probably more in the middle.
We're just going to have a good time, and that's really what we're shooting for.
Let's go down the list, though. You two guys on lead vocals and some background vocals as well, rhythm guitar as well. Lance Varner, rhythm guitar, also some background vocals. And then we've got Representative Chuck Blackwell from Jones County. He's on the bass.
Yep.
We got Representative Steve Lott from George County, Lucedale area. He's our lead guitarist. Yeah. We've got Representative Noah Sanford down from Tubb County. He's on the keyboards. And then the outlier me, your humble talk show host on the drums there. But that's the lineup.
Yeah, that's the lineup. Now, there are a few people that have been begging to get in. Okay. Celeste Hurst wants to be our cowbell girl, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll let her get up there for one song.
That's so awesome. So I'll have to admit, the first time we got together, which we practiced at inside one of the barns at the livestock facility there on the fairgrounds.
Nice and cool that day.
Day. And, after that I said, I don't know about this. We're not too good. But then we got together for a second time, and it was marked improvement. And then our third time was even like, hey, this actually sounds pretty good, and I expect that today.
We got to get all the rust and barnacles off.
That's right.
We've all been around the block a couple times.
And the hard part is you guys know, because we've had a thread, we've been communicating a lot, is a little discussion and controversy on how we start the songs and how we end the songs. This in between is a little easier.
That's our hardest piece that we're trying to put together.
Yeah,
the beginnings and the endings. But that's in every band.
Every band. It's kind of, if you've ever played music, for all your listeners out there that have played in a band or tried to play music with somebody, it's the same no matter how talented you are or how untalented you are. Yeah. It's going to be the same drama or the same, I don't know, we should do this one first. No, we should do that one. No, I think we should have a keyboard solo. No, we should have a guitar solo. Yeah.
Well, I think Representative Joseph Tubb here has kind of put the list together of the sequence of the songs, right? You were largely responsible for that, and it looks good to me.
I think so. I think it's going to be a great blend of where I'll sing one, Dan will sing one. Yeah. It'll kind of help with our voices.
Yeah.
And not strain, because it's going to be warm.
Yeah.
And so singing outside is always a
1 o'clock. Right, so when we kick off July 31st
on the main stage.
On the main stage.
Yes.
I knew it was big time when you came to me and said the sound people want to know how many mics you want for the drums. Yes. I knew that was serious there. So
we finally made it, boys.
It's going to be really special for me because my dad met my mom on this very stage.
Really?
Back in the 50s. Yeah, my dad is in the Mississippi Music Hall of Fame and the Mississippi Rockabilly Hall of Fame. He was in a band called the Original Rolling Stones.
I didn't know
and
that.
he met my mom one night playing there, and she was down in the crowd.
How cool is that?
Yeah, 60-something years married.
Man.
We should do a tribute song for
absolutely.
Dad.
There you go.
Mom. Please don't add any more.
We've hit the drop dead point. No more new songs getting added.
Because Joseph added one, about a month ago? Maybe a little less than that. A couple weeks ago. I can't remember.
It's going to be really...
I feel like it's been a month because I've listened to it about 8,000 times, I think, so far. But it's
great
good, too.
Song.
Yeah, I don't want to disclose it.
Please don't. They'll have to come and listen.
You got to come here.
To hear it. But I'm thinking we kind of made a little transition. We're going to end with it because it is such an impactful song.
Okay.
And I think that's how we're going to end
we're going to end with it.
I think so.
We're not going to kick off with it.
No, sir. I think we're going to end
There'll
it.
be some tweaks to the lineup once we all get together today. But that's one of them. That'll be a good tweak.
It ought to be a lot of fun, though.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Hope everybody can come.
Yeah, me too. So I talked to the speaker. He's going to be at a cabin, but a cabin that has full view right there of the stage is what he told me. He's at an event he's been invited to 11:30 to 1. So as soon as that thing's over, he's going to be stepping out, and he wants to come see, of course, the members play.
Did you ask him if we could use it as a green room?
Hopefully he's going to walk over and maybe say a word or two.
All right, so if you guys can hang around, we keep talking.
Oh, yeah, sure.
We got Representative Dan Eubanks and Joseph Tubb in the Element Well studio. We're coming right back.
is your...
Covering the stories that matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert. Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Back in the Element Wealth studio, we're visiting with Representatives Dan Eubanks and Joseph Tubb. They are, I'm going to call them the founding members of the newly minted The House Band. How about that? That's what I'm going to call them.
Yeah, great.
But you're technically a founding member, too. So.
Okay, well, I don't want to take credit for that.
First practice.
I guess I was privileged to become a member of the band because you didn't have anybody in the house that played drums. So, no, it's cool. I just think it's neat. I really do. And I was just telling them I just got a call while we were on the break there to join Newsmax today. And I'm not going to because we're going to be in the middle of practicing. But I'm going to work on them scheduling an interview while we're at the fair and try to get the fair in the background. I think that'd be great to expose that and get that on national Newsmax television. Would be kind of neat. So I'm going to talk to him about that. I don't know if you guys happen to run into Representative Robert Johnson on your way out. Did you?
I did.
Okay. Because I had just completed interviewing him for 3 segments. And it was interesting. I'll just say that. I got a text here on the C Spire text line from Nathan in Smith County. He said, I appreciate you standing up and keeping the facts straight during that interview. I don't think you could have handled it any better than you did. Well, I appreciate the positive feedback there, Nathan. You guys work with Representative Johnson. We may not always agree on stuff. He's a pretty good guy to work with, though, isn't he?
He is. And I've got a lot of respect for him. He fights for what he believes in.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, and Joe can probably back me up on this. When I first got elected, I had started having flashbacks of being back in junior high school. There is elements of that sort of cauldron of personalities and just politics in general. There are some people that take everything personal.
Yeah.
They never forget. They'll stab you in the back because you voted against or whatever. But I have found that Robert has been pretty reasonable over the years that I've served with him.
Yeah.
That, we may agree to disagree on some stuff. And I always tell people, look, it's about policy, not personality. I can vote against your bill or not agree with you, but I still love you as a child of God. You're still going to be my friend. Hopefully you can feel the same way.
Yeah.
And I was listening to the interview on my drive down from DeSoto County.
Okay.
And there were some things when I first got in the studio, I was like, hey, you should have said this, or what about that? There were some things that I was like, yeah, but you're not taking into account this. And so, I disagree with him on some of his points, but not his passion for, where he stands.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for Representative Johnston.
Yeah.
He's easy to work with, and he stands up for what he believes just like we do.
He does. I think of the members of the House on the Democrat side, he's a very capable minority leader.
He's a sharp guy. He's very smart.
He really is, and he's a reasonable person. And so on that basis, he doesn't come in here and try to get in your face. I've interviewed him many times. He's not combative or confrontational, and you don't want that. I mean, we're not getting really a productive discussion when you have that, but you can have a productive discussion with him.
Yeah.
And you may still walk away in disagreement, but you can still have a civil discussion with him, and that's why I respect him on that basis. But he's got a tough job being the minority leader in a body where the Republicans have the supermajority the way they do, and in both houses and across the spectrum of government. He did talk about a Democratic potential candidate to challenge Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. He didn't name the individual, although I will tell you guys, I guessed offline and I was right.
Yeah.
He did tell me that.
Ty
So, no, Ty is running as an independent.
Okay.
So Ty has left the Democrat Party and is running as an independent in the race. But this would be a Democrat candidate that the party is recruiting to enter the race as their nominee for the seat. So interesting discussion with him along those lines. And, of course, they're all unhappy about the budget reconciliation bill that just passed, the package, the big, beautiful bill, as it is called. They're not happy about the tax reform bill that went through that will eliminate the income tax in the state of Mississippi over a period of time. Not happy about that as well.
Yeah.
And
I will say I have to disagree with my friend that when he said that most of the members in the House didn't know what was in HB 1.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit hyperbolic as well.
A lot of time was spent on that bill.
Yeah.
I actually got all the facts, built a spreadsheet formula, and gave it to other members so that they could run scenarios. Like I ran my mom and dad who live off just basically Social Security. I want to see how it was going to affect the senior citizens, how it was going to affect me, how it was going to affect people, so that I could say, look, you want to know how it's going to affect you? Plug in the numbers, see how it affects you over the whole 14 years. And so I couldn't have done that if I wasn't privy to the facts, and I just had to go ask. Now, he was right about one thing. There is an awful lot of stuff that comes at us that we don't know anything about. And
there's no doubt.
It hits you on the floor, and it's like, well, wait a minute. The bill's not even online yet.
Yeah.
We got to vote on this 200-page bill.
Yeah.
So he's right about that. There is stuff, but I think that was pretty transparent as far as like what was included.
Yeah, I think so too. And I had written a fairly lengthy article that's published on the SuperTalk website that included templates and models that one could plug in their data and see how it would affect them. So we have talked about that a bit. But I agree with you. I think the major provisions of the bill, I think members understood what was going on. It really comes down to sales taxes on groceries and the excise taxes on fuel and the elimination of the income tax. Really, those are the main key provisions. I think pretty much everybody understood how that would work. I don't think there was any confusion about that. But he has got to sort of carry the water for the Democrat Party, and he does a good job at that. That's for sure. So back to our band discussion. July 31st, once again, 1 o'clock on the big stage at the track. What are we going to do after that? We got to keep it going. All this
Get
practice.
hydrated, I imagine.
Well, I don't mean immediately after that day.
I don't know if you've ever been in the Neshoba County Fair. It is hot.
It is.
So we're going to be praying for like a cool front to come through. So maybe that'll be it.
Well, and I'm excited about staying and seeing Larry Fleet play that night.
Yeah. Big time.
Sings Where I Found God. That's a great song.
Oh, yeah.
So are we going to try to schedule some future gigs? What does that look like? The speaker said something about...
I'm just saying, I've had a few people come up and say, well, hey, I guess, but it's all going to hinge on how well we do at the fair. It might be like, nope, we might be
we had several invites before
a pariah.
we had our first practice.
Yeah, I know it. Before people even heard us.
So we got to let us
you might want to hear us
behind us first.
I started thinking about this. Do you think there's another... such band anywhere in the country that's comprised of members of a chamber of their legislator?
I was thinking about the same thing. I know there are other politicians. Bill Clinton would get up there and play, and Mike Huckabee would play the bass.
There's musicians all over the place.
There are people in politics that will fill in or step in, but I don't know. I have not heard of. This could be history in the making.
Okay.
So all the more reason
band
for people to come out to the Neshoba County Fair. I don't know that there's ever been a house band, and hence the name. We were like, when we were trying to figure out the name for what do we call ourselves? And it's like, you always refer to the local band that plays in the club or whatever is the house band, right? But why not the house band? We're all house members and an honorary house member. And so I don't know. This might be a first. We might actually inspire other legislatures to come up with.
That's true.
Let me have a battle of the bands.
That would be fun. There you go. Not only do we play softball, we can have a battle
Why
of the
not?
bands.
Good interstate.
I love it.
I think wasn't there some representatives that did? I think Scott mentioned this, that there were some representatives that maybe had a quartet and performed at the fair.
I do think that's
years
true.
Ago.
A long time ago.
Yes.
I do think that's true. Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where the idea came to fruition.
Yeah. I think that's true. So Representative Bounds, of course, from Neshoba County. He's, like you said, he's president of the Neshoba County Fair. So I guess we could thank him for just proposing the idea, right?
Yes.
That's where all that came from. Yeah. And he's gracious to let us perform as well. He doesn't know if we're any good.
It's a real leap of faith on Scott's part, man. Yes. Scott, thanks for believing in us even before anybody else did, right?
Of course, it's cheap, too, right?
That's right. We're pretty cheap. We're pretty cheap right now. If you got a bar mitzvah or a high school graduation, I don't know if we're ready to go on the road yet, but, you know.
That's incredible. I love that. All right, so surely we're going to do some more after this one we're doing at the Neshoba County Fair.
What the Lord brings.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think we'll probably get maybe a set at the next Trailer Trash Bash.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get probably do a few songs.
We might even add a song or two to the list, right?
Yeah, that's true.
We got. I'm kind of making a list of some I'd like for us to think about.
We might even do some originals. We need to do that before we're going to get the record deal.
If we're going to do some originals, then
I got plenty of those.
We got
I have to work on my songwriting.
There you go. That ought to be fun. All right. Appreciate you guys coming in, and then I'll see you a little bit later on this afternoon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having us.
Representative Dan Eubanks and Representative Joseph Tubb. The house band, that's what we've been talking about. We got half an hour remaining on Middays. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Middays with Gerard Gibert. It is on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
We are back in the Element Wealth studio. It is Middays. We appreciate Representatives Eubanks and Tubb for coming in the Element Wealth studio talking about the house band. Looking forward to that. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think the elected band y'all were trying to come up with was the Singing Senators.
Ah, that's right.
They were founded in 95 with John Ashcroft, Larry Craig, James Jeffords, and Mississippi's own Trent Lott.
That's absolutely true. I see that now. We got a few on the C Spire text line.
They released an album in 98 called Let Freedom Sing, but they disbanded 2 years later in 2000 because Ashcroft lost his bid for re-election and Jeffords changed parties.
Gotcha. Understand. So, yeah. And then Governor Mike Huckabee played the bass. And he used to have a show on Fox News, and they'd always do a little music entertainment as part of the show, and he would take on the bass there. So he was pretty talented at that. These guys are, too. They're better than me, just so you know. They have to cover up bad drummers. You know, I've told you that. They told me, no, it's just the opposite. So, but it's a lot of fun. They got the shirt on. The logo looks pretty good, I think. I need to figure out where I could get a decal in this design made for the drum, for the bass drum, right?
Oh, yeah.
Got to do that. Absolutely. So on the C Spire text line, it says, name it the Chambers. That's pretty good. Oh, man. Let's see. Thursday, once again, I had a couple of questions. Thursday, July 31st at the Neshoba County Fair, 1 o'clock on the stage at the track. That's where we're going to be. I got to get in there that morning or the evening before to get the kit set up. Takes a little longer to set the kit up than it does just plug your guitar into an amp, just so you'll know. But looking forward to that. So I think it was Thomas in Greenwood asked a question. It was kind of related to the discussion we had with Representative Johnson. He said, why did the CPI increase and the PPI was zero? So the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, the PPI, the Producer Price Index, we got the CPI, and then the PPI. That was Tuesday and Wednesday. It's because of what's measured. So the PPI is the measurement of the cost of inputs to the production process. The CPI is a measurement of the cost of goods and services at the retail, the consumer level, thus the consumer price index, the producer price index as the names. And the reason the CPI went up, and it's pretty steadily been in that 2.5% range. It was 2.7% on an annualized basis. That's certainly much better than the 9% that we saw in 2022 under the Biden administration. And, you know, this is where I guess I would take a bit of an exception to Representative Johnson's statements about how we benefited from ARPA. And there's no doubt we dropped money out of helicopters, and certainly the state of Mississippi and every other state benefited from the money that flowed from that legislation, mainly to the municipal and county levels. And those were somewhat restricted in their use, those funds specifically for infrastructure and water infrastructure, road and bridge infrastructure and water infrastructure, no doubt. However, all we did was tack that onto the debt. And I just still have concerns about this, what appears to be lack of concern on the part of our Congress, both sides of the aisle, for these deficits that we continue to generate, and certainly the expectation that economic growth will solve that problem and help us get to a point where the budget is balanced and certainly start reducing deficits. I believe in that concept as well, but it's not going to happen as long as any increase in revenues that flows from those policies is not offset by decrease in spending, because they just keep on at the same pace. And actually, in President Trump's first term and into his second term, or not his second term, into Biden's term, those 8-year period where we had the Trump tax cuts in place, the spending was up dramatically more than the increases in revenue. That's why the deficits kept going up. And so the left doesn't want to acknowledge, they like to promote that same tired talking point that the deficits are because we gave tax breaks to the rich. No, actually what happened as a result of the Trump tax cuts, a little known detail that they don't want to acknowledge, is that the amount of the total taxes collected increased from the higher incomes. More was collected from the higher incomes. More of the burden was transferred to higher earning individuals and corporations than at the lower end of the scale as a result of the Trump tax cuts. They don't want to acknowledge that. So not only did revenues go up, most of that came from the wealthy. But they want to tell you, oh, yeah, it was the tax cuts that generated these deficits. No. You increased spending by 50-something%, 53, I think, to be exact, whereas our revenue went up by a third. Imagine your revenue going up by a third, and that's not sufficient to cover spending, your spending habits. So I'm all for what just passed. I think it's fantastic. I'm just pointing out that it's true. The president's right. Others are right. I do think we're going to see unbelievable economic growth in this country as a result of these policies. I do think that's going to generate more revenue for the Treasury, but we got to do something about the spending, because the spending increases easily offset and outpace the revenue increases as a result of economic growth. And we're facing the same challenge here in the state of Mississippi as we start phasing out the income tax. I do believe that will stimulate economic growth. But if the spending keeps going up commensurately and on a pro rata basis, then we're just chasing our tail. We're not really having an effect. We're certainly not going to replace loss of the income tax revenue if we don't do something about the spending right here in the state of Mississippi. I don't think that the economic growth is going to produce enough sales tax revenue on its own to just counter the income tax. But Representative Johnson also didn't acknowledge my comment about the real wages. That's a real thing, and it is the proper way to measure just the overall economic status of households. It's real wages, and that's just how much more money do you have coming into your household after inflation. Doesn't matter as long as inflation's going up at the same level or even at a level that's greater than the increase in your household income. You're upside down if that's the case. So, yeah, I'm making more money than I was, but stuff costs more. You're not any better off. Same situation here. Thomas asked, why did the CPI increase when the PPI was zero again? And I just want to point out the CPI includes measurements for some things, such as housing, as an example, medical care, that the PPI does not. PPI is more focused on stuff that we make, manufacturing, forestry, natural gas, construction. That's what the PPI focuses on, more commodity-based measurement, and the CPI doesn't. And so the CPI went up 2.7%. That's just a measurement of inflation that you feel when you go out and buy stuff. Still not at the 2% target the Fed has in order to reduce rates. The president started talking about firing Jerome Powell. The markets reacted negatively to that and really concerned about just the instability associated with firing a Fed chairman and all that would entail. And the other thing is to keep in mind, folks, they're more involved in that decision than just the chairman. You got the other Fed governors that are part of the committee that makes the decision on interest rates. You got to do more than just get a Fed chairman that's on board with cutting interest rates. You need to persuade all the other members of the open market committee that makes those decisions. So it's a little bit more complicated than that. Yes, who installed Powell? Thomas asked. It was Donald Trump, the president, that did install Jerome Powell as head of the Fed. But so what, Thomas? He doesn't like his performance after he put him in that position. That happens. You hire people on the basis of their qualifications and your gut feel as to how they perform, and they sort of let you down and fall short of those expectations, and you got to make a change. So this is nothing unusual in that respect.
Otherwise, it would have been Trump-Pence again.
That's absolutely true. That's a good point. It's a great point, as a matter of fact. We're stepping aside for a break. Final segment on Middays coming up.
Take a little trip with me.
Why'd I go to the doctor?
Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk, Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
2, 3, 4.
On the C Spire text line, Tony in Saltillo says, "Hey, brother Gerard, I'm home in Mississippi listening. Love Mississippi and love your show." Appreciate that, Tony. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the kind words. Let's see. Also on the C Spire text line, talking about Representative Robert Johnson. He's perfect for the minority, and they will remain for years because they've lost all common sense. In 2008, the state of Mississippi froze all pins. Those are employee position numbers. This is from Marshall and Terry, requiring a need for an agency to certify the need and reason. I worked for the state then. Greg and Newton says, don't want to fill out a form. Too much trouble. Kind of reminds you of showing an ID to vote. Too much trouble. Let's see here. Tim and McGee says, my niece has never had a job. She's on Medicaid and can work. Interesting. Yeah, so the question would be, Tim, if your niece is on Medicaid, I'm assuming that's what you're saying there, they would qualify for one of the coverage groups that Mississippi allows. in their Medicaid program would have to be blind, disabled, pregnant, a minor child, or a low-income senior. Tell Mr. Johnson, he also says, please don't get that mad because the majority of the population doesn't agree with him. I just feel like it's a pretty simple ask. Now, I will say this, that I've read a number of reports that do indicate most people in the able-bodied coverage group actually qualify and meet the so-called work requirements. The vast majority do. But there are some who don't. But I will pass this on. This is why we have to pay attention to these reforms and this nonsense about, and this is what I can't get anybody to admit, there are no cuts in the bill. There's nothing in the bill that says we're going to change the way Medicaid reimburses. We're going to change the base coverage requirements. All it says is if you're an able-bodied adult and you're on Medicaid in a state that expanded Medicaid to the able-bodied adults with an income below 138% of the federal poverty level, you got to at least work or do community service or be a caretaker. Period. That's it. We're just asking you to do that, we taxpayers, in exchange for this benefit. That ain't that onerous. And by the way, check in with us twice a year to make sure you're still eligible. That's not draconian. In fact, that will save money, and that's where the predictions and the forecasts are coming from, because we know there are a lot of people that if we did that more frequent check would not be eligible. So we're not spending money on benefits to people who aren't eligible. What the hell's wrong with that?
Well, you got to remember, it's the left that champions universal income.
I see.
So they're not for taking money from anyone.
You're right about that. It's just, but they portray it as if, oh yeah, they just put the eraser to it and the pencil to it, start slashing numbers.
Well, it's because they got to rile up the bleeding heart blowhards.
It's just not what happened. It's not what happened. And I've told you that before, that I think the estimates of the savings as a result of how many people the Democrats say will lose coverage, I think both sides are overblown. I really do. I think at the end of the day, you won't find as many people are going to lose coverage, but we also won't achieve the savings that are estimated. It's because we haven't really changed structurally the way the program works. We've just put some additional requirements out there to qualify for the benefit.
And if you're hell-bent on gaming the system once a year, you're likely going to be hell-bent on gaming the system twice a year.
That's absolutely true. I think they'll all figure out a way.
His assertion that nobody's trying to cheat to get Medicaid, well, that's just bull.
Oh, it's totally true, and that's where I was going. Is there's a report that just came out the last 24 hours. Autism centers in Minnesota. They popped up all over the place, many of whom are participating in the Medicaid program. 85. I can't even imagine 85 autism centers in a single state. 85 under investigation for Medicaid fraud. And this is something else, we've pointed out. It ain't just the beneficiaries, the subscribers, the enrollees. It's also the providers.
And the providers will try to justify it as, well, Medicaid pays so little for that one tongue depressor that I have to charge them for 5 in order to make even when I use the 1.
That's absolutely right. But the growth in their claims for which they were reimbursed from Medicaid, it was like astronomical. We talked about it on the break. Tell the folks.
Yeah, it went from like 6 figures in the first year to 200 and something million before they were caught.
Man. Jimbo in Gluckstadt, if someone wants government-paid health care, why is it a problem to only have to fill out some paperwork? I agree. I just think this is grossly overblown. I really do. If they really cared about it, well, then go help the people fill out the paperwork and then keep the benefits. We are out of here today. Back with you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe and God bless everyone.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.